So the holiday season's officially over, unfortunately, I know. But there's always something to look forward to, right? Like new year, new gear. And if you're looking for a new amp in 2026 and you want something that's pretty versatile and checks all the boxes, I think I've got something that you're gonna like. Before we get too far into the video, I am gonna say it's not a tube amp.
Not a tube amp.
So you might want to roast me. I roasted myself a little bit when I bought it. Truthfully, like I didn't even want to like this thing. I really didn't. I plugged it in reluctantly at Guitar Center and was blown away by how good it sounded, and also a little unsure of myself, like my tastes had changed, I don't know. But I did, and I eventually bought it, and it's a great deal for what you get. And I think that it's something you should seriously consider if you want a really good versatile amp. I'm gonna string you on just a little bit on this because I want to go over a few things, and then I want to play through the amp before I reveal it, because I don't want you to judge the fact that it's a solid state amp. I want you to hear it and judge it based on the tone, and then I'll reveal what amp it is. But here's a few quick facts about it that I think are really, really important. One, it's super reliable. It's easy to carry. Let's be honest, when you have tube amps and you're going in and out of bars and playing gigs, they're heavy, especially if you've ever picked up anything like a Fender Twin or something like that, it'll break your back. So it's nice to have something that's light and easy to transport. The other thing about it is that it's super durable. Bars are notorious for not having good power, and tube amps, especially if you have a vintage amp or a vintage circuit, power and clean power at that is especially important for the amp to sound good and run well. With the solid state amps, you don't have to worry about that as much, so it is a little bit of a benefit if you're playing in bars. The last thing is, it's truly a Swiss Army knife. You can get so many different tones, multiple amp voicings, all of the whole kit and caboodle basically in one easy to carry, easy to transport setup. I'm not sponsored by this company. I have no affiliation with this amp. I bought it super cheap on Reverb, but I want you to hear me out, take a second, listen to it, and then make a decision on your own whether it's something you want to explore or at least consider. So I've strung you on long enough at this point. The amp is a Boss Katana Artist MK2. I think they just recently came out with the MK3 or the Mark III. But I tried that one at Guitar Center, and honestly, I still prefer the Mark II. I'm partial to it, so I'm not gonna lie. There's obviously a little bit of bias there on my end. I've owned it for a long time, but one of the other things I want to talk about, which I think is really cool, in the context of the specific video that I made today, all the guitar tones that you just heard in that track were recorded with an SM57. The amp has a built-in attenuator, so you can go from 100 watt to 50 watt to 0.5 watts. And so the recording that you just heard was recorded at 0.5 watts with a real microphone, and then obviously in post, in Logic, I added some effects and brought the gain up and things like that. But the purpose of that is to show you that you can use a real amp in an area where you've got nearby neighbors that are not going to approve of you, cranking an amp up to get some, recording. So I have an Apple Watch. Apple Watch, if you don't know this, actually has a decibel reader in it. So when I was recording, I checked what the decibel reading was, and it was at 65 decibels, which is right around a conversation. So it's insane that you can record really good sounding guitar tones at essentially conversation levels, and then put it into your recording software and make a track out of it. So I'm not here to tell you that this amp is better than a tube amp or that you don't need a tube amp or anything like that. I'm just saying it's a good alternative at a pretty low price, and it might even make a great combination of a practice amp / gigging amp if you have a nicer tube amp that you don't want to lug around to bars and things like that. That's all. Speaking of price, I want to go over this. I don't know what these are going for today, but I'll put up a scroll of reverb on the screen now at the time of filming this, which is January 2026. So you can see what the market rate is and what most are listed for. I got mine 2 years ago and I paid exactly $400 for it shipped. And to spend $400 and be able to have access to tones like that and a bunch of other great tones and also a great practice amp, gigging amp, like just the combination, I think it was well worth the money, and I'd gladly spend it again. Another cool feature that I can't demonstrate, unfortunately, because I only have one, but there is the ability, if you have two of these, to link them, and the digital effects will actually syncopate, so you can get some modulation between the two different amps, and you get that stereo spread and things like that. So if you are somebody who likes to run a 2 amp setup, or kind of like a wet dry setup or something like that, there's a lot of really cool things you can do with the kind of more digital effects, digital modeling side of the Boss Katana. I just unfortunately can't show you that today. The other thing I wanted to touch on is the cons. No amp is perfect, and this one certainly has its flaws. The biggest flaw, in my opinion, is the direct output that's on the back. They say that you don't need to mic these amps, you can just put a direct line, go straight into front of house or into your mixer or whatever. Personally, every time I've done that, I think it sounds terrible. It's very brittle, it sounds like a very, very old school kind of first iterations of modeling amps that, kind of came out. So I prefer to mic mine. It's kind of a easy way around it, I guess, but I just would not recommend running the direct out on the back of the amp. The other thing that I never really liked on this amp was the software that it syncs up to. So Boss has, let me get the name of it. It's a program called Boss Tone Studio, and you can download it on your computer, and you can edit the tones on the amp easily, and you can also download from a long list of other tones that are stored on the software, or that other people will save and then upload to the community so that you can download them. I'm sure that it's great. I'm sure that there's a ton of really awesome stuff out there, but I just never found the editing feature to be super easy or intuitive. But I'm not a huge techie guy. I like analog things. I like to twist knobs and build different pedal layouts and stuff like that. So for me, it's better to just do the edits on the amp and then push and hold the button to save the configuration. But if you're into the computer stuff and you want to download the software, your opinion might be different than mine, and you may really enjoy it. And speaking of pedals, there's another thing I almost forgot to mention, is this amp takes pedals incredibly well. A lot of times when I gig with this amp, I'll bring the Boss pedal. Unfortunately, I don't have it. I think it's in storage at the moment. I'll show a picture of that on the screen, but I'll bring that pedal, and then I'll also bring my own pedal board, and I'll run them together. And so sometimes I'll use the lead channel that's built in, it's a built-in preset on the amp, and then other times I'll just run the clean amp preset throughout the night, and then I'll use my pedals to go in front of that if I want some drive or distortion or anything. I didn't demonstrate that in this video. Everything that I recorded was just tones from the amp that are right out of the box. So if you bought it, there's nothing that I recorded that you won't have access to. But just wanted to say that it takes pedals really, really well. And I've actually, one thing I was pleasantly surprised about with this amp is I've gotten a lot of compliments on it. Like, I was really surprised about it, playing at different gigs and venues, and people always come up to me like, what amp is that? What are you running? That sounds so good. I'll share a clip to close this video out of me playing a festival using the Boss Katana. Anyways, I think that'll about do it. Like I said, I'll close you out with that video from the festival. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. Feel free to subscribe if you want to stay tuned for future videos and things like that. But as always, appreciate you watching, and hope you enjoyed the video.